You are running with the Devils, and we're back talking everything Arizona State football. I'm the Rhino, Ryan Knowles, here with me as always, Big John Caldwell. And Big John,
Yeah.
feels good to be talking about another ASU win. The Devils go in to Pasadena and knock off the UCLA Bruins over the weekend. And we'll be talking all about that. We'll also preview ASU's matchup this weekend with the number 6 ranked Oregon Ducks migrating into Tempe. We'll have all that. But as we like to say here on RWD, you give us 30 minutes, we give you the world of Arizona State football. And we're going to try and do that here on the show tonight. Coming to you a little bit earlier this week due to scheduling issues. We're glad that you're able to tune in with us. We're thrilled to be bringing you everything Arizona State football as it comes to us. And we're going to be talking a lot of stuff this week, Big John. Of course, we're going to be in a good mood because we're talking about a victory, an ASU victory, a big win.
It was glorious.
UCLA Bruins. Not the prettiest win you'll ever see, but hey, it looks like a blowout on that in that win column, and that's all that counts. And the Devils stifle the Bruins for their first road win of the season in their last road game of the season. If they had lost, this would have been the first time since 2001 they went through a season without winning on the road. So they were able to avoid that benchmark, thank God.
And winning in California is good.
Yes.
Big too.
Yeah, always. Yeah, some of those kids, some of those SoCal kids were definitely playing with a chip on their shoulder with family and friends in attendance, and they definitely showed out in their play, and especially on the defensive side. The Devils' D rebounded big time after giving up so many points to Utah. It was the week before they lost 55-3 in Salt Lake City. They definitely bounced back and were a big reason. They led the way, Big John. They led the way as the defense, powered the Devils on their way to this victory. They shut out the Bruins for 3.5 quarters. Yeah, the Bruins had their third string quarterback in, but you got to play who's in front of you. You can't really, that's something that was out of ASU's control. So they definitely took advantage, turned UCLA into a one-dimensional offense, and were able to stifle them and come away with a nice win.
I loved everything I saw in terms of the ability to flush a bad game out of your system. And more and
resiliency. That's what great teams have.
They redeem themselves from that. And two, and we're going to talk about some of the unique things that the new wrinkles in the offense that were put in. But quite frankly, yes, it was the defense that won the day. But for the kids they were fighting hard. And that's the thing. That's the hallmark of this team. They have fought hard all year long, and to put in the work to learn this new wrinkles in the offense and be willing. So I mean, they have the great will to win, but they also are putting in the time and the effort. You could have just said, "Oh, these plays are not going to work. This is crazy," but they made it. They believed in it, and they believed in it.
It looked like a gimmick. I mean, it looked like something you run in the backyard. It looked like backyard football, basically. Everybody taking their turn at quarterback. Guys lined up over here, guys lined up over there. It didn't look too good, before the snap. But once that ball was snapped and guys started getting in motion and being where they were supposed to be, it all started to come together and worked out pretty well for them.
No, I think being innovative, letting guys like Conyers touch the play QB. We've seen Scatterbo do. We talked about that last week.
He is a matchup nightmare, no matter where you put him. You just get the ball in his hands, and he can usually make things happen.
Right.
And he certainly did on Saturday. That was a nice wrinkle. We saw a little bit of it in the Utah game, but to use it the way they did, with that, that's they were calling it the Dilly offense on the Dilly formation on the radio, but it's kind of a swinging gate type of formation that hasn't been seen too much. I mean, I think Oregon used to run something similar in their 2-point conversions, under Chip Kelly, in fact, but you hadn't really seen it in a regular offense. And ASU, kind of dug a little deep on that one. I mean, they kind of had to go to YouTube and the YouTube some 70s football, in order to find that and figure out kind of the nuances of how to run it. And they didn't even necessarily run it correctly. I mean, they were talking about about this on the TV broadcast. Not really running to the numbers side. They were kind of running the opposite way.
Correct.
But they were still making it work. The guys were still winning one-on-one out in space when they got the ball.
I'll tell you what. So it's predicated on putting 4 guys out on the number side, and the first time they ran it, they had 2 on the opposite side. they later were running it with one on the opposite side, so it changed the matchup situation out there. But what you're
Yeah.
trying to do with that is obviously trying to get that fire-breathing dragons, as Kenny called them, to get
Yes.
them to commit. And because
Laiatu, Latu, Murphy, Muasau, all those great defensive players that UCLA has.
And Kenny knew from film that their rules called for those guys to go play the man, not the zone.
Yeah,
so
and we're going to talk about more about some of these offensive oddities and then nuances here in a little bit. But we got to start. And when we're talking about this game, we got to start with the defense because the defense played an outstanding game. Yeah, UCLA was starting their third string quarterback, a guy who really didn't have a great arm, was much more of a runner. But ASU had struggled against the run so much against Utah that and then they were going up against another run-based team that you weren't sure what was going to happen. I mean, both of us picked UCLA to win. We weren't sure how ASU's defense would respond, but they responded in a big way. They only gave up. I don't even think they gave up that. I think the graphic might be off. No, I'm sorry. They did give up only 117 yards, and 117 passing yards. They forced the Bruins to go 3 of 11 on third down. And the big stat, 0 of 4 on fourth down, including 2 inside the 10 that, were basically turnovers the other way. And those plays to me, we talked about this pre-show, that really was the difference in this game, the fact that they were able to keep not just UCLA out of the end zone, but UCLA off the scoreboard.
And then today's modern analytics world that leads the coaches to the OCs to believe that 4th and 1 is going for it in 4th and 1 is smarter than going for 3. The flip side is really bad. I don't think anybody's done the math yet on how badly it can go when you don't convert and how many teams are scoring as a result of it. So
sure, and not just that. I think that UCLA
is a high risk
play calling on those 4th downs. I mean, they're basically running straight ahead almost every time against
right up the A gap. It was A gap and no play action. They had players in there to run play action too. I mean, it looked like play action the third time they did it was coming. And I'm like, they're going to go up the middle again. My God! But they thought they had the horses. They thought they had the matchup. Right? It's all about matchups.
Yeah, so true. And I think but there's matchups, then there's also knowing what does the defense think you're going to do. Playing the tendencies and all that. I think you got to kind of play away from that. And that's UCLA was just way too vanilla at times. I mean, I know you got your third string quarterback in there, but mix it up a little. Get him out on the perimeter. Get some of the you got a couple of athletes at running back. Let them get out on the perimeter a little bit. They ran a lot between the tackles. And they didn't mix it up going to stretching the defense at all to the outside. And ASU was ready for them, and they played extremely well. We saw some of the stats that even mentioned they had 3 sacks, they had 6 pass breakups. They were all over the field. This is a defense that responded after just a subpar performance against Utah in a big way against a UCLA offense that has struggled at times this year, but other times they've been able to move the ball, they've been able to put points on the board quite consistently.
Yeah, the game ball went to Brian Ward because of the defense's play, not any individual, but I thought the entire coaching staff really showed how savvy and how smart they were, and using even tapping into guys like Marvin Lewis and his brain power to come up to suggest and listen to Marvin that this was something that had worked in the past, both at the pros and in the Marvin used in the pros and it was used by Utah back in the 70s.
They talked about that on the radio too. Jim Fossil in the 70s ran that swinging gate offense at Utah. And I mean, just the fact that they were able to dig that far deep, and it kind of reminds me of Marshall University after the plane crash. And they had to kind of reinvent themselves. The coach, he liked to run a power eye offense that was very, reliant on a strong offensive line, which he didn't have. So he had to mix things up. He had to switch it up and run his rival West Virginia's offense, the veer option. And that's kind of what ASU did. I mean, they kind of went back, kind of looked at some different things, what other teams had done in the past, things that really hadn't been used in a very long time, but also things that that are very tough to game plan for. And he really negated those. He called them fire-breathing dragons, and that's a fitting description of some of those defensive players that UCLA has, and the fact they were able to take them out of the game, make them practically non-factors, and still able to move the ball and put enough points on the board to win was very very encouraging, especially for a team that struggled to move the ball at times this year.
It's something that there was a disconnect with the people announcing the game on both on radio and TV, and what was really happening in terms of where we took four losses in a row on where we should have punted. People were like, "What's going on? What's going on?" And we're going to show you a stat here in a minute as to why that was and why it actually it worked. But
spoiler alert, it worked.
It worked.
And they had three different guys taking snaps, three different guys throwing passes. Jalen Conyers throws one on the second drive of the game that forces a pass interference call that eventually led to
19 yards
to a field goal in the first points of the game. Trenton, Scattaboo, the wild scat, he's been taking snaps all year, but they've been having him throw more out of that formation now, and he threw a touchdown pass.
He threw a beautiful 25-yarder running to his right across that, and because he's got such good torso strength, he threw that ball right on the he laced it into him.
And he just let Badger go up and make a play on the ball, which is what Elijah's really good at. So, and then you had that turnover, Caleb McCullough getting his hat on the ball and forcing that, and Shamari Simmons recovering. That led to that score as well. So, just a full team effort. Just from the defense bouncing back and really forcing UCLA to be one-dimensional and shutting down and not making that run game as much of a factor. I mean, they ripped off some decent plays. They got a few first downs. They were able to move the ball into ASU territory a few times, but they tightened up when they needed to, and were able to, just it's all about points on the board. That's the most important thing. And they were able to keep UCLA off the scoreboard for 3.5 quarters, which in this game was good enough to win. So three key stops on fourth down, which were huge. The plays where they kept the punt where they kept taking penalties.
Yeah,
that was in time of possession. They were trying to run the clock down, because that was something that they did. When I was listening to it on the radio, I was very confused myself.
Yeah.
Healy and Rapper didn't mention that the clock was running the whole time. Right. They were trying to run clock and keep UCLA's offense off the field.
That's right.
When they had a 2-score lead at the time. So they were just trying to run clock and trying to turn. Even if UCLA goes down and scores, which they did, ASU just has to keep. Then they get the ball back. They're just trying to continue to run clock, and
it meant was
trying to play keep away.
The odds were they could, and football parlance says you might score on us once, but you're not going to score on us twice if we can stretch this thing out. And look at it, that's 14 minutes. 14 minutes difference.
Luckily, ASU,
that's a quarter.
ASU was able to do that even after UCLA got the score. ASU was able to put together its own scoring drive.
That's right.
And go down and Trenton and Cameron Scattaboo with a nice 15-yard run to basically put the game out of reach at that point. Right. And Trenton Bourget, not the best game, but he managed the game relatively well. He did have that one bad interception with the miscommunication. Where he threw it to the end zone, there was nobody there, and the safety picked it and made a diving catch.
It was a catch and throw. It was a timing thing.
It was a miscommunication, but still a good game. Still managed the game well. Didn't try to take any stupid chances. Just played within himself and played within the offense and managed it well.
But you got to give him credit too. He's out there on a bum ankle, and it got worse as the night went on. And by late in the third quarter, he
ran a couple times too.
He did, but he was suffering. You could see him limping, very pronounced, and he kept playing out there like a sun devil. And I think everybody should be really
he
proud.
definitely gutted it out. He's one tough dude. I don't think anyone's going to take that away from him.
No.
Not the most durable guy ever, but he's not going to let a bum ankle keep him out. I mean, he played on it most of last year too. And
it was the other ankle, believe it or not. But
he played. We know that he's the fact that he's his mental toughness is certainly there go out there and play on that is very impressive. But yeah, probably the drive of that game, the 99-yard drive after UCLA down that punt
Yep.
Inside the one. In fact, the ASU, who struggled to move the ball for most of the season, in fact, they went 99 yards in 14 plays, took 7 minutes off the clock,
Yeah, huge.
and put them up by 2 scores, which in a game like this that was such a defensive struggle, might as well be 5.
Yeah,
It felt like at the time, UCLA turns around, gets a score of their own, and pulls to within 3. But then ASU puts another drive together, put the game out of reach. But that was really big. That was huge to be able to move the ball down the field like that.
If I'm going to try to create a narrative with this whole season, we played a lot of games that we were really in them to the end, or very close 1-score games. To me, the ability to finish and to master key moments of the game where plays had to be made. This was a game where all of those plays, it seemed like they all fell in line, and people finished, and we mastered the moments. Kenny talks a lot about that. You got to understand there are certain key moments you got to win.
We felt like this team needed a signature win at some point this season to kind of justify Kenny's philosophies and his leadership taking hold and taking effect, and that it was working. Could this be that win, Big John? I know we didn't mention UCLA specifically when we were talking, but this is still a team that had, it was 6-3 coming into this game. They were, they're going to a bowl game. They're one of the better teams in the Pac-12. Certainly looked like they were going to be better on paper. They were 17.5-point favorites coming into this game.
Yeah, crazy.
Could this be a game that ASU uses as a springboard into next season and say, hey, this is a game that we didn't have our best players on the field all the time. We were outmatched at times, but we found ways to win. Is that something that we can continue to do down the road?
We always do, and we usually do this. I do this at the end of the season, the woulda, coulda, shouldas. But you look back at the Cal, Colorado, and Washington games, and you say to yourself, we could have won those 3. We were in a position
easily.
To win this. And
totally.
we could be sitting right now at six games, bowl eligible, and everybody's looking at. But we're not going to a bowl this year, so that's another issue. But we won't get. We're not going to get a whole lot into Ray Anderson.
Let's not. Well, we won't pull on that thread. No.
No, it's okay. Things are gonna. Trust me, folks. The NC2A.
The fact that they can go through those narrow losses, those heartbreaks, and bounce back and continue to play at a high level and be competitive week in, week out.
That's the narrative.
That's the kind of philosophy, that resiliency that Kenny's trying to instill. And as they get, as his system takes hold, as he gets more of his guys into the system, as he's able to recruit and get depth, adapt into the program and whatnot, I think that this is a good stepping stone to where they want to be, a good step in the right direction for what they want this program to be.
No question.
So, so as we do after a win here on RWD, our players of the game, presented by Valley Athletic Booster Club. Support local athletics. Check out valleyathleticboosterclub.com. And Big John, so many, quote unquote helmet stickers to hand out after a game like this. Plenty of props to go around, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Hard to just pick 2 guys. You definitely got to give your hats off, give a little salute to the whole defense, because everybody seemed like they came to play on Saturday. And especially a big shout out to Brian Ward, the defensive coordinator. They locked him up long term, and some of those coaching jobs are starting to open. Kind of wonder who's going to still be here, but it looks like Brian Ward's going to be here long term.
Yes, sir.
And definitely got to like what his defense has been doing lately. And but I'll start on the offensive side. We talked about Cam Scataboo, running that wild scat offense very, very well. He just filled up the stat sheet with 12 carries, 61 yards, and that game-clinching touchdown late in the fourth quarter, and then his 25-yard passing touchdown to Elijah Badger that really helped solidify ASU's lead. But also, just before the half, another big play that'll kind of go under the radar, a 50-yard punt that
pinned him down.
Basically, by that point, UCLA had used up all of their timeouts,
right?
Just try to lead their offense in time to try to go down and get some points. And Cam as he's been called on to do. He's been called on to do so much this year for this team, play multiple positions, and they just had him kind of quick kick with the ball rolled and put UCLA out of position to do anything to end the half.
Right.
So, another big play from him. He just, every time he touches the ball, good things tend to happen. So my hat's off, and my player of the week this week on offense goes to running back Cameron Scatabo.
Scatabeast. It's Scatabeast.
The wild scat. Yes. Oh man, that guy he's filling up the stat sheet. He's filling up the nicknames. He's just doing everything since he stepped on campus, and he's a semifinalist for the Paul Hornung Award.
Hornung, yeah.
Most versatile player in college football, and that definitely fits Cam to a T. Versatile. And he does so many things well. We talked about him playing both ways, playing linebacker in high school.
Oh, wouldn't that have been fun?
He just does so many things well that he's quickly become a fan favorite, and definitely a guy that's become a focal point of this offense. So hats off to number 4, Cam Scatabo. And on defense, got to give a big shout out to Deshaun Mallory, the defensive tackle, Michigan State transfer, who's kind of become just a cornerstone of this defense. Guy just makes plays week in and week out. Led the team with tackles in 9, had a half sack, but 2 big pass deflections as well at the line. He gets his hands up. I mean, he makes plays coming up the middle. He fits into this defense extremely well. He just seems to benefit playing going one-on-one next to CJ Fight, the space eater, and seems to make plays week in and week out no matter what's going on. He kind of had a slow start to the season, but now has come on and become a playmaker, a difference maker on this defense that seems to be full of them week in and week out. And he's been a fun player to watch, definitely, since he got here.
I can't argue with either of your choices, Ryan. So you took mine, but I had to come up with something. So here we go. So I would have given it to the whole defense just because of the way they perform, and really the game. If I had to give game helmet stickers, is to all the coaches for being so darn innovative and keeping these kids ahead in the game. Definitely Elijah Badger had another great game. It's evident that they figured out how to get. He's a playmaker. You got to get the ball while he's moving. In other words, in motion, he's very tough.
I don't think anybody has benefited from that swinging gate offense more than Elijah Badger, because they get the ball out in space and just let him make plays. And this is a guy who's one of the top players in college football when it comes to missed tackles, dodging missed tackles, making plays after getting yards after the catch, absorbing hits, and yards after contact. He's one of the best in college football.
It's funny when he gets the ball on a lot of those screen passes, or even in the gate. There's times when you go stay outside, but he cuts inside and he makes it work. He makes people look. He creates.
I said that about Stovall. Stovall had one of those plays where he had blockers in front of him, and then he had the space to the outside, but he cut it inside.
Right.
And notice how the middle linebacker came over and laid him out with a hit. And it's like, Elijah Badger, he's able to absorb those hits, spin off of them, and then keep going downfield.
Whatever you're doing, Elijah, keep it going, baby.
Yeah, totally.
On defense, Chris Edmonds, I thought, had a really solid game. He just showed up every time he was supposed to. 4 solos, 3 assists, 9 tackles.
He shows up every week. I mean, he's not flashy. He's at the safety spot. He's not going to wow anybody with his with any highlight reel plays. But he's always where he's supposed to be, and he's always around the ball, always finding ways to contribute. And that's his greatest value.
Well, they've dialed Brian's dialed up one of his blitz packages where they'll bring him off the edge. It's kind of cool because he's fast and he just runs that straight line.
That's like a zone blitz, because they'll drop one of the linemen into coverage. Yeah, that when you time it right, that is very hard to stop and very effective.
They also later ran it to that same side with Romney, and he came through like a house of fire. He looked great. So, and by the way,
there's plenty of helmet stickers you can hand out to guys who just made plays in this game. BJ Green, Trey Brown, Romney, Jordan Clark had a big pass
Clayton
break.
Smith. Clayton Smith had played a wonderful game, contained nicely.
He's having himself a nice year. CJ Fight's not going to show up on the stat sheet, but what he does as a space eater, creating opportunities for players around him on the line and the linebacking core, is definitely not going unnoticed by anybody on the staff.
Well, you notice they'll run those blitzes right through off his hip.
Right through the A gap. When the linebackers come up to the line and show blitz and then come right through there, it's CJ Fight eating up two blockers that creates opportunities for the linebackers to get after the quarterback. Absolutely.
If you guys ever bring binoculars, just watch him after something like that. He's smiling from ear to ear. He's a kid. He's so happy
that big freshman, man. He does his
job. Yeah, he is fun to watch. He's got such a
joy. And then Shamari Simmons with the fumble recovery, he had a couple nice plays. Caleb McCullough getting his head on the football to create the fumble.
Trey Brown.
I mentioned him.
Mentioned Brown. Yeah.
There's plenty of accolades to go around. Everybody on those fourth down stops, the whole unit, just collapsing on the running lanes, not leaving anything for UCLA's running backs to pick up those fourth and shorts.
They
definitely deserve kudos there.
Roe Torrance had a really solid game too. He stayed home. He didn't nothing got past him. I thought I was really pleased with Roe. Anyway.
Ed Woods played a solid game. Logan Loya coming into this game was one of the best receivers in the Pac-12. He didn't really do a whole lot. He did have that one touchdown catch. Other than that, he had three catches for 39 yards for the game. That was it.
Yeah.
That was it. And they had I mentioned they had only 117 yards receiving, but they only caught 11 balls as a team.
Right. That's way off, folks.
Oh, yeah. That's huge. That's another notch to the defense.
Mm-hmm.
So, that this might have been their best performance of the season, especially when you look at, they didn't give up a ton of points. They played pretty much a complete game.
Yeah.
For the most part. Yeah, they had the one, they let UCLA go down and score late in the game, but at the same time they were able to come back. They knocked Schlee out. And they didn't let Chase Griffin, the fourth string guy, who's more of a true passer,
who is a passer, right?
Yeah, beat them. So
we shifted.
Even though they were up 10 points by that point, but still,
yes. But
you don't want to give up a cheap touchdown and give them any hope in the final seconds.
Well, at that point, when Schlee's out, we go back to a nickel, right?
Yeah.
We put the extra DB back there, and so it became a little more predictable. So at the same time, doing that after playing, with the three linebackers and playing to the run the whole game, not every defense can do that. Switch on a dime to do that. So that's another kudos to the coaching staff for making those adjustments and keeping this team up at their emotions at a high level, keeping them up, and just playing practically a lights out football game. So hats off, boys. This is may not, even though UCLA's not ranked, this was still a big upset on the road. Well, we both picked UCLA to win.
With a stadium with a lot of history. I mean, it's the last time ASU is going to be playing UCLA as a conference opponent. So, there was a lot going on in this game even before kickoff. So.
Well, I thought we both picked UCLA last week, and probably rightfully so, because that they're fire-breathing dragons, as Kenny liked to call it. We were so intimidated by that.
They got some playmakers on that defense. Especially in the front seven.
We were so intimidated by that, I think, and so wary. We thought, well, there's no way we can beat that, but we figured out a way. So I mean, number one.
But at the same time, that's why we're doing what we're doing, and the coaches and players are doing what they're doing.
Yeah, so. Number one in innovation, baby. Number one in innovation. Remember that. That's what.
And that's true on both sides of the ball, especially in a game like this, where and I've talked about ASU, and we're going to get that into this a little bit more in the next segment. But those are our players of the game, presented by the Valley Athletic Booster Club. Support local athletics. Check out valleyathleticboosterclub.com. Now, we've given plenty of love to the defense in this show, and rightfully so. But now we got to talk about the offense, because this was the first game they were in a while against a tough defensive opponent. UCLA's defense had been pretty stingy at times this year, and ASU was able to, not the most consistent, but they still moved the ball when they needed to, put points on the board, play well enough to win, basically. Can the offense continue this improvement, Big John? Can they, as they're playing together more and more often? I know that you're still dealing with some injuries on the offensive line, but
We'll go through that in a
I think
minute,
guys are starting to come into playing form a little bit more. Another guy that is not going to get a lot of love, but I think may have played his best game as a Sun Devil, Aaron Frost.
Oh yeah,
he showed up quite a bit, and he was a big reason why this offense was able to move the ball as well as they were, because he was blowing guys off the ball. He might have played his best game when he got out in space. He was looking to take somebody's head off. He really flashed on film to me with some of the blocks that he made. So, is this offense? Now they've been able to put some points on the board. In 2 of their last 3 games, do they have some confidence going forward that they can, do a little bit more and hopefully continue to have success?
Well, we certainly have the defense has an identity and confidence and has some swagger going on now.
Sure.
Can one game? I think they kind of started back at Wazoo a little bit, but in terms of confidence, but this, we cannot go ahead and impose our will. We're not that kind of team right now. We had to employ some trickeration and some technique in terms of hanging onto the ball and ski to win. Can you?
And that can be an offensive identity.
It can. But do you beat the number one offense? Yeah. Do you go out? But can you? We'll talk about Oregon in a minute.
Yeah.
Yes, they can continue to improve. Yes, you will notice one of the things, Ryan, we're not giving up any our penalties are extremely low right now. That's a sign of a disciplined team to me. And that
offensively, yes. Offensively, yes. You take out those the delay of game, the false start penalties before the punt.
Yes.
You take those out for the most part. Yeah, we were not very penalized in this game.
No, and that's a sign of improvement and discipline. So yes, I love the fact that people are getting to play and build some quality reps out there. That's really helping us. But at left tackle and Joey Ramos, you talk about other guys. He was flying around late, getting to the second level.
He was a big reason why they won against Washington State.
That's true.
He had a great game. He had a great game against Washington State.
Yep.
UCLA it was another time when he was flying around the ball, doing a lot of things well. So I'd really like to see. I'd like to see some of these guys. I'd really like to see this offensive line with a healthy Bram Walden.
Yes,
and even if you got Sean Na at one of the guard spots, something. I felt like it felt like, especially if this team had a healthy offensive line, their record would be significantly different.
I think you have those 3 close games. You probably could have won at least 2 of them. Yes, there is room for improvement. Will they? Yes, I think the kids have winning is infectious. Winning is, it's they have never stopped buying in, and the fact that they changed, that so much newness was thrown at them last week, and they picked it right up and executed it as well as they could have. I think.
Sure.
Given. So yeah, it's Trenton should be back and fine. We're not going to see, unless Rashad is 100%, unless the doctors say he's 100%, unless he feels 100%, and Kenny thinks he's at 100%. He's playing at 100%. He did go today at the live section where they actually ran full tilt, full speed, not thud, not
like a real game. Yeah,
like they ran real game. He practiced again today at that, so we'll see. But I have my doubts that he'll play. I don't know why you would.
He's still got 2 games left before 2 games left that where he can maintain his red shirt. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that he could play again this season.
Yeah. Well, there may be a mop-up situation or something in there.
Or if Forgay goes down again, I think you'd rather take a chance on Rashada than Jacob Conover.
Yeah, and don't kid yourself. You're not going to see Pine. He's too hurt. He's not. And Conover. No. You're right. Conover cannot run and throw. He has a lot of trouble with that right now.
And that's why I think that again, I call it backyard football. They call this during the Pac-12 post game. they kind of made the comparison of backyard football, where everybody's kind of taking a turn at quarterback,
Mm-hmm.
mixing everything up, giving guys different looks. And that's why, I ask the question, is it possible now that teams have some film on you running it, can you continue to run the gate formation and have some success?
Well, if you don't have if your team rules say that you're going to stay home at your position and not pick up, you're not
Are you talking about
D-line,
talking about opposing team
yeah,
defensive tendency?
it's all about their own rules
Right.
that they have, right? Because if the first time you see it, you're going.
Yes.
By the way, and you saw what UCLA did. They have a rule in case that happens. You've got to go cover your man. You can't just stay home. So because they didn't call timeout, they had a rule right away that they knew how they were going to play it. It still didn't work for them. It worked for us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you'll see something else and that's some more wrinkles in it, because remember we ran two variations of the gate. We ran 4 and 2 and 4 and 1 at times. So I think it could work. Yeah. It could go again.
Yeah, they went back into the 70s to get that offense. College football goes back more than 150 years. What else could they go into the past to break out against an Oregon team that may not have the same tendencies as UCLA? The gate formation may not work against them, but there may be something else out there we haven't seen yet that they could break out, and you never know. And that's what I think, kind of that intrigue and that unpredictability is kind of what Kenny Dillingham is hanging his hat on. And now that, then it's leading to giving ASU some success. It's giving them an added wrinkle that maybe not everybody has.
Yeah.
That they can, find ways to move the ball and have success with.
If we had one or two more serviceable running backs right now, yeah, you can start doing all kinds of innovations to take place out there. But the fact is, we really don't. We're going to talk about injuries in a second. You'll see the long list of injuries at running back. It's terrible. But so we're doing this innovation largely with skill players and receivers and tight ends right now.
That's the strength of the team. That is the strength of the team right now. They're kind of having to hide their deficiencies at the offensive line because and that's what they did in this game to negate UCLA's pass rush. They spread everything out. They did a lot of quick stuff to the sideline and let players make plays with their legs, and it worked. And they let them keep moving the chains and ultimately put some points on the board. And with the defense playing as well as it did, that was a formula for success and a win against a team like UCLA. Is that something that they can do against a team like Oregon that is a whole nother beast? You talk about fire-breathing dragons. These guys are even worse, and with some of the players that they have, more so on the offensive side, and we'll get into them here in a minute. But what else does Kenny Dillingham have up his sleeve to kind of help his offense have success against a team like Oregon? It's been very tough on a lot of teams this year.
Well, let's get into Oregon for a sec, because I think this is to me this is going to be another really great test to see what Kenny is made of.
Yeah.
Because this is
big litmus test. Yes.
Well, he's playing the number one offense in the country, and he's also playing against his former team. Every single which player came back again this year. They didn't lose anybody, and he knows the personnel and the rules and the tendencies very well. So this is going to be really intriguing, and they know that he knows a lot of their stuff, right? So
it's that chess match. Yeah,
it's another chess match, right?
We know that you know that we know that they know, and it's all. Yeah, I know. It is going to be. It should be intriguing to see what these two teams break out against each other. Don't expect Oregon to deviate from anything they've done this year, because they've had a ton of success. 9-1, 6-1 overall, 6-1 in the conference. Their only loss was a 36-33 just shootout against Washington.
What a game!
It was and we talked about it on the show. That was probably the candidate for game of the year, because it was back and forth all the way down to the final minutes.
Two great quarterbacks, what you got to see.
And Dan Lanning came over from Georgia last year. He's done a tremendous job up there in Eugene. Second season, he's already at 19-4. He has Oregon poised to make a run at the college football playoff this year. We'll see how the rest of their season plays out. But again, remember, it's the top 8 teams this year, and Oregon sitting at 6th right now is in a good spot to potentially be one of those 8 teams. And Dan Lanning, just getting into his resume, he was at ASU under Todd Graham. He was graduate assistant in 2012.
He's the analyst.
Yep, he was on-campus recruiting coordinator in 2013. Cut his teeth under Todd Graham in Tempe, and then he was with Kenny Dillingham in Memphis under Mike Norvell from 2016 to 2017 as he was a linebacker, inside linebackers coach. I think that's what he was during that time. So 2016, 2017, and he was also a recruiting coordinator there as well. So definitely he knows how to recruit. Clearly, by his from his time in Georgia, where he was a defensive coordinator for a national championship team, to what he's doing now at Oregon, and then obviously Kenny Dillingham was their offensive coordinator last year, and really did a great job developing their quarterback Bo Nix into the player that he is now. I mean, everybody saw the potential that Bo Nix had coming out of high school. He was one of the highly touted quarterbacks going in. When he started out at Auburn, wasn't didn't really live up to his potential. Was benched there at one point. Transfers to Oregon, and Kenny Dillingham gets his hands on him and turns him into one of the best quarterbacks in the country. He's putting up Heisman numbers. If we go to the next slide,
yes, you're absolutely right.
You look at what he's done, his numbers this year. Just kind of looking at Kenny at the offense from above. Oregon leads all-time series against ASU 20-18. They won 8 of the last 10 against ASU. ASU went through a long stretch of a lot of close games, but and failures against Oregon, where they were just like right there and they couldn't finish. And then those big games in 2017 and 2019, and they really should have won in 2018. A bad call on a 2-point conversion ultimately led to Oregon winning 31-29 in 2018. Oregon's moving into the Big Ten with Washington, USC, and UCLA next year. So it's going to be the last time we see the Ducks for a while here in Tempe. When you talk about this offense, you got to talk about their quarterback, Bo Nix. He makes this offense go. He is the driver and the steering wheel in a high performance offense. 540 yards per game in total offense, more than 46 points per game, which is number 1 in the nation. This is an offense that can go and put points on the board in a hurry. And when you look at Bo Nix's numbers, 78% completion, 3,100 yards, 29 touchdowns against just 2 interceptions, and then he's got 5 rushing touchdowns on the year. Those are Heisman-like numbers that he's put up this year for the Ducks. And if he's the driver and the steering wheel in this high-performance offense, Bucky Irving is the engine, because he makes this team go. He's not the biggest guy. He's actually kind of taller than I thought he was. He's about 5'10", but he's only about $190. Kind of small, but he's tough to bring down. He runs big. He transferred over from Minnesota, and he's really turned himself into a nice player in this offense. He fits in really, really well. He's gonna break 1,000 yards probably this weekend. 10 touchdowns to go along with 40 receptions and a receiving touchdown this year. He's had himself a tremendous year. Definitely, he's hard to miss. He's a 00, the running back. He looks he looks kind of small when you watch him on TV,
right?
But he is fast and he runs big. Doesn't usually get brought down by the first guy. Very tough to bring down. So
got great hands.
Yes,
I love it.
Yeah, good receiver out of the backfield as well. They find different ways to get him the ball, and he can do a lot of things if you don't get him on the first try. And then nice complimentary back, Jordan James. They get him involved in the offense. So he is about 20 pounds heavier than Irving, so they'll use him a lot more in the tackles, kind of more their short yardage back got 9 touchdowns himself this year. So definitely a nice complementary player in that backfield. And that's the thing with Oregon. They've always had great running backs.
Yeah.
Great playmakers in the backfield. This version is no exception.
Well, that's why I give them some chance of being out of the big 3 that are moving, Oregon, UCLA, and SC. I think that they may do better than any of them moving into their new conference, just because of their emphasis on the run and the way they've been able to recruit running back, the way they can recruit running backs.
You got Washington too.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying there's 4, but I'm saying out of that whole group, I think they're the more consistent in terms of recruiting good running backs.
Well, yeah, and they always do find ways to be successful. Although lately they've had their problem's been hanging on to head coaches. You got Willie Taggart, who was there for a short time. You had Mario Cristobal, who left for his dream job in Miami.
Yeah.
Then you got Dan Lanning coming in. He's been here a couple of years now, but word is he could be poached for the A&M job. And who knows what other jobs could open up before the end of the year? Teams willing to open up that deep pocketbook to try to bring him to College Station. That could certainly happen. And then who knows what else? I mean, there's some other positions that could open up before the season's out. So for whatever reason, Oregon, they've always had success, but they've had trouble keeping coaches since Chip Kelly left. So
go back to Bellotti, probably the last time they really had consistency, right?
Yeah, I mean, Kelly was there for quite a while, and took them to a national championship. Always seemed to have them, in the national title picture year in and year out. They went to the title game, lost to Auburn. They went to the national championship, lost to Ohio State in one of the first years of the playoff. And they've always had success. They looked like they were going to go to the playoff a couple of years ago in 2019 when they ran into Tempe and ASU, shocked everybody with a big upset win. I rushed the field just like everybody else after that game. And I'm glad you put the thumbs up, Big John, because I liked kind of the new thing for ASU is doing the gladiator thumbs down. They're doing. I love that. So, but just getting back to USC's offense, another thing too, they've always had good skill position players, running backs, tight ends, receivers, and maybe one of the best receivers they've had in a while is Troy Franklin. He's come on. He was he's been here. He's a sophomore, but he's really come on and established himself as wide receiver 1 in this offense. 60 catches, over 1,000 yards, and 11 touchdowns this year. And then a small school transfer, Tez Johnson, who transferred in from Troy, has turned himself into a nice complementary player in this offense. Everybody kind of expected Gary Bryant Jr., the USC transfer, to come in and kind of be the main cog in this offense, and he's been a decent player, but he really hasn't gotten the touches that Franklin and Johnson have. And Johnson, 53 catches, 725 yards, 8 touchdowns on the season. He's another guy that really makes this offense go. And then I mentioned they always seem to have good tight ends in Oregon. They always utilize the tight end extremely well. And Terrence Ferguson, 33 catches, 347 yards, and 3 touchdowns himself this year. They like to use him a lot as a weapon. So definitely got to get some bodies on these guys because they'll make you pay. They have some legit pro prospects on this offense.
They do.
And and not take anything away from their offensive linemen on that right side. The 2 seniors in Stephen Jones and Ajani Cornelius, both are expected to be taken in this spring's draft. They're both established, solid seniors who can get out there, and they're one of the big reasons why Bucky Irving is having such a tremendous season.
Running to the right.
Yeah, and this offense, they find ways to put points on the board. I mean, they're number 1 in the nation in points scored. And this is we mentioned this is going to be a test. This is going to be a huge test for ASU's defense. See if they can slow down this Oregon attack. I mean, they really struggled against Utah a couple weeks ago in their rushing
Right.
attack. Oregon statistically is even better than Utah.
Right. But here's what I question. I looked at Washington and how many weapons they had and their great quarterback Penix, and
Sure.
we really we did a great job of making him look very ineffective. And
we did stifle them and made him look very mediocre. I mean, he hadn't thrown
his lowest numbers,
three interceptions all season before that game, and he threw 2 against us. So
my point is, we're going to need that kind of effort, that kind of scheme to beat this quarterback. Because I kind of had at one point, I had Penix sort of ahead of Bo, and now I have Bo sort of ahead of Penix based on what happened in our game. Okay, so that's my rationale. Yes, and so the challenge is, okay, guys, you beat at the time the number one quarterback, what everybody thought was number one quarterback. Can you go do it again? Yeah, and quite frankly, they didn't make Caleb Williams look very, USC look very good either. I mean, it was an off game for him.
19 of 34, 291 yards and a touchdown through the he did have a rushing touchdown, but not great numbers for Caleb Williams. That's a testament to this defense. That's what I'm saying. Not as head to head, maybe not as good as its offense, but still very good in its own right.
We've gotten up for good quarterbacks, is my point.
Sure. Yeah. And I think that we're definitely going to need to do that again this week. And just getting back to the Oregon defense, they're only giving up about 300 yards a game on defense, and only 7. But the big stat to me, 17 points per game allowed. That's number 14 in the nation. So they're definitely capable of keeping teams out of the end zone. And big reason why has been their safety, Evan Williams, who's just all over the place. This guy, he plays the boundary. They have a boundary and a field safety. So they'll have one guy on the short side, one guy on the far side, on the larger side. And Evan Williams is the boundary safety, and he's filling up that stat sheet with a lot of plays. 62 tackles, 5 tackles for loss, 4.5 sacks, 2 pass deflections, 2 fumble recoveries, and a forced fumble on the year. This guy is just all over the place. He's definitely got to watch and try to game plan for. And he's, you got to know where he is at all times, because he just goes out there and makes plays. Number 33, he's definitely one you got to watch out for on this defense. And one of their big pro prospects, another good pass rusher. 3 weeks in a row, this team's facing tough pass rushers. And Brandon Dorlus is very good in his own right. 21 tackles, 6.5 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 6 pass deflections. He's kind of a taller guy. He's going to get his hands up. They're going to need to find a way to neutralize him, much in the way they did Latu last week. And then moving on with the rest of this defense, their nickel corner, Tysheem Johnson, is having himself a tremendous year. They like to line him up all over the place. He's second on the team in tackles as the nickel corner. 53 tackles, 3 tackles for loss, a sack, 2 interceptions, and 4 pass deflections. Another guy who just fills up the stat sheets everywhere. It feels like all the time. And the nickel corners kind of become a vital part of defense, not just in college football, but also in the pros. With as much as offenses run spread with 3 or more wide receivers, you got to really need to have 3 good corners, especially one who can play on the inside. And Tysheem Johnson has definitely filled that role very well. Tysheem Johnson, filled that role very well for the Ducks. And then, just looking at some of these other players, the jack linebacker, Jordan Birch, he's kind of the guy who plays on the other side from Dorlus. And he's, collected 27 tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, and pass deflection. And then they're one of their best outside corner, Kyrie Jackson, is having himself a nice year. 26 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks. So they like to blitz him quite a bit. 2 INTs and 5 pass deflections. He's a ball hawk in his own right. So this defense got some playmakers on it.
And they're well coached. Their new DC, their DC came in last year. Tosh Lupoy he came from the pros. He'd been coaching D line in the pros for 3 years, And I think he's just, and then you have Lanning's sort of defensive mentality about things. This is,
yeah, and Dan Lanning has done. We knew that the defense would be good when he got the job because
mm-hmm.
the way he coached up that Georgia defense, turned them into champions, was tremendous. This is a team that actually uses. They have both an offensive coordinator and a co-offensive coordinator, and the same thing on the defensive side. It's Tosh Lupoy is kind of the main guy, but then you also have Chris Hampton, who's come in, and because they lost two of their coordinators last year because when Dillingham left,
that's right.
Matt Powledge was the DC, and he leaves as well. Had Chris Hampton come over and he's had a lot to do with the success that this defense has had.
Well, Lupoy doubles as not just the DC but also the linebackers coach for these guys. So he's got he's really got his hands deep in every not just in scheming the defense, but as particular how to move one group of his around. So interesting way they use their how they rebuilt.
Because how do you scheme this ASU team that you don't really know what they're going to do, what they're going to throw at you?
Tendencies. Well, they know who their playmakers. They know who the playmakers are, and you can spy. You can spy and scheme around those. But it's going to be interesting to see how I just love the chess match. Capability of the prodigal son Dillingham going back to try facing his former team, and the quarterback that he kind of rebuilt from the ashes. It's a great narrative. It's a great narrative.
Totally.
And if anybody knows their tendencies, their schemes, their rules, I talk about rules, right, of what to do when you throw something new, it's Kenny. So that, to me, it just adds a level of intrigue that you don't often get in a college football.
And hey, Brian Ward saw them plenty at Washington State too. So
let me tell you what, Bo Nix and Lanning both this week had nothing but high praise for Kenny and what they in particular. They watched, they looked at the film, right? They said, yep, he's doing Kenny stuff, so it's I'm glad that the country's getting a chance to see us. What are we on? What channel?
We're on Pac-12 Network.
Pac-12. Oh, geez, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So not as much of the country as we'd like, but it's Oregon. They're still going to have plenty of eyeballs on them, especially now that they're they're in the national title picture. So
and as we talked about in the pre-show, we have a potential to knock these guys out of this thing, and this could be looked upon by them as UCLA kind of did with us, a little bit of a trap game. They're looking forward to the next game.
And Oregon had that game against USC last week, which was a big game for them. They're rivals. They're historical rivals. Mm-hmm. And then you got the Civil War with Oregon State coming up next week, and Oregon State's ranked, and they're a good team in their own right. So that's not going to be a cakewalk.
And that's a game where
they might be looking past us a little bit.
That is a game where you throw everything out the window in terms of history and stuff, because Oregon, because I don't care. It's such an acrimonious game.
Hey, it's called the Civil War for a reason.
Yeah, these two go really they go
especially
at it.
with what Oregon State and Washington State are doing in court right now.
Winning.
Well, they for now, but the fact that they're playing that card and not letting may not let the two best teams fight it out in the Pac-12 championship game. That could rub some teams the wrong way, and they may take it out on the players on the field. So it's going to be an interesting storyline to watch. But speaking of storylines, our keys to the game this week, presented by Sleep in Heavenly Peace, for a great nonprofit that builds beds for families in need. Definitely support Sleep in Heavenly Peace. And my keys this week, we talked about an offensive identity. This is kind of their team, their ball control, keep away type of offense. Just keep the chains moving, keep the clock moving, keep the opposing offense off the field, and that's I think what they have to do offensively. Just maintain possession, keep getting first downs, keep moving the ball downfield. try and get points wherever you can, but most importantly, keep that dangerous, elite Ducks offense off the field and
Right.
out of rhythm. Because once they get going, it would be extremely difficult to stop them. So hopefully this offense can kind of pull its own weight a little bit, maintain some drives, keep the clock moving, give the defense a rest when they need it, and potentially put some points on the board and give themselves a chance in this matchup. And then defensively, you got to cancel the Bo and Bucky show.
Yeah.
This I mentioned, one's the steering wheel, one's the engine of this offense, this elite, high-powered, high-scoring offense. And you got to find ways to limit the big plays, because that's what this offense thrives on. They love, throwing the ball downfield. They love hitting and gashing defenses with big runs. You just got to keep everything in front and not let them get away and score, on long plays.
Well, it means you got to tackle. You got to tackle.
Make them work for everything that they get. That's the big thing. Nothing easy.
Right.
Don't get caught out of position. Just keep everything in front of you. Make your tackles. Wrap up. Play fundamental football. They're going to move the ball. They're going to get some yards. But if you can keep them out of the end zone to a certain extent, field goals, not touchdowns, I think that you give yourself a chance.
As we talked about earlier, even Oregon is following suit with 4th and 1s and going for it. And the fact that they're
a good offense. They should go for it.
They should.
They give themselves a good chance.
Analytics kind of works in their favor in that case, but but even more so, they're we're going to talk about this in a second. They're using a second string kicker right now, and who's missed a few since he's come in.
Missed a big one in the fourth quarter against USC that cost me some money.
It sure did, yeah. So everything you've said, again, they score. They're such a great team with the big explosive plays. They really pride themselves in that. This is a stat I looked up in the games that they have lost, and in the games they have been really tight. You've got to win the first quarter. So I kind of thought, if you can actually win the first half, that gives you, and then from there really get into the play the clock.
I think a strong start definitely benefits ASU if they can kind of keep the score close, stay within 2 scores, and not let the game get away from them. Again, all they need to do is just give themselves a chance. That's all I think anyone is asking in this game. If they can just play hard, don't let Oregon play their game, make them earn every single thing that they get, then you put themselves in a position to be competitive.
This next point, forced turnover seems like a natural thing to say, but if you can convert off of a turnover.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but the fact that this defense has been as successful as it has without forcing a lot of turnover.
Right.
If they can do that, they give themselves a great chance to make it a game.
I kind of statistically, we're overdue. I mean, it should swing back the other way a little bit more. But Washington's really been the only game this year where we've been able to force more than one turnover. Really. Right, 3
for the most part.
Yeah, and so and then I kind of went back and looked at some of their big explosive plays, and my question to myself was, what downs do they make them on? And and it looked to me like second and short, third and short worked more in their favor than second and long and third and long.
If you can have success on first down and put yourself into second and third and manageable, your odds are you're going to convert and pick up another first down and continue to move the chains down the field. So put them into some longer situations that also benefits ASU.
Well, it puts more of a one-dimensional team too at that point. So I just thought that would be a great thing to put on the board. And again, you said it in your points, make them kick field goals, and then we'll see if the second string kicker can do. Hey, folks,
if you don't let them be chip shots.
By the way, every single weather report, I'm AccuWeather, WeatherBird, the Weather Channel, they're all saying different things, but it looks like we are going to get some rain somewhere along the line between tomorrow and Saturday it's
Well,
looking, it could be as bad as 60% chance of rain. But if it is raining, conventional football wisdom says you're going to run the ball more. And I think we got to run the ball regardless in order to win. But with only one running back, really, Scadaboo at this point, you have to force yourself to create a second running back, and that could be somebody like Conyers as a running quarterback for you.
sure.
And not that he's God's gift to running, because he tends, as
Again,
you pointed out.
I've said it. I said it during pre-show. I say it again. This is a game you could really use DeCarlos Brooks.
Oh yeah, but I don't think he's going to be ready from what I'm seeing.
Tough having
He's
him
not
out.
ready. So hey, rain could be a factor. It could limit. Let's see. I haven't seen Bo Nix yet throw in the rain this year. So, right. So, anyway, I threw this in here. You probably didn't even know I was going to do this, but I just wanted to show our listeners that injuries are always a big part of the game. There are 4 key guys. These are key injuries, but I just don't put anybody up here.
Yeah, these are guys on the 2 deep.
Yes, who are out, and they've got four guys, and you can call them all skill players at this point.
Yeah.
And then, by contrast, look at ASU's key injuries to 2 deep players. These are not just and I didn't put Michael Matus in because he's really kind of a 3. But this list, folks, is ridiculous. Okay, but we're still, kids are still buying in. Still, I mean, imagine what this team could do right now with Xavier Guillory playing. I mean, the guy's a stud. Bram Walden playing left tackle.
Bram Walden, DeCarlos Brooks, to me, are the bigger ones. I would have liked to see a healthy Jaden Rashada throughout the whole season. Emmett Boley's another one. Those offensive line injuries were just such backbreakers this year. And I thought we had better. We kind of have had better depth to a certain extent. Sean Naa, the true freshman's playing a lot more than I think anybody thought he would. But guys kind of pressed into duty. But I mean, they're kind of having to run these crazy, weird offenses, outdated offenses, just to take pressure off of this offensive line. The fact that they're doing that, kind of show, especially when you look at this list, is, kind of evident of what this team could have been had they been able to even stay relatively healthy. I mean, even if you just cut this list in half,
right?
Half those players being healthy and being able to contribute, I think would have certainly helped this team this year. So, one other side note I wanted to mention in case anybody forgotten, we will see the former Sun Devil Connor Soley in a Duck uniform this week. Look for him, number 22. He's not starting right now, but we will see him at some points, probably mostly on special teams. But his family has a great legacy at ASU.
Yeah,
and
definitely outstanding.
Should see him playing for the Ducks.
Outstanding young man. I think he's playing. He's playing Will linebacker.
Middle.
He's playing middle. Mike.
Number 22. So we'll still be certain, at least that's what the depth chart has him listed as. We'll certainly be looking for him. And as always, we'll do score predictions this week. Neither of us really given the ASU much of a chance. We still think it's going to be a 2-score game, but I don't know if ASU's offense is going to be able to keep up in this one. I think that this will be somewhat of a closer game in the first half, like we wanted. I think it'll be like a 13-6 type of game in the first half with Oregon in the lead, and then ultimately ASU kind of get outclassed and just outpaced.
Outskilled player.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, they're just going to too much talent on both sides of the ball for Oregon, for ASU to keep pace. I got them falling 27-13.
Yeah, so I've got a 10-point differential. I kind of see it like you do. It's key, if we can stay close, don't let them get ahead by 2 scores. You have a shot. If
they get to 20 points, if this offense can get to 20 points, I'll be thrilled. Frankly, even if it's like a 41-20 game, I'll be thrilled that this offense manages to get.
Scadaboo's going to be
the point that we're at.
Right. Scadaboo's going to be a marked man. That's all there is to it.
Badger too.
and Badger will be at the Markman. So I think it's time for we're gonna have to get innovative and put some people into positions to get the ball that haven't got. I think that's what you're going to
Another
see.
thing too, this is probably one of the better secondaries you're going to see in the Pac-12.
Yes.
This is a team that has very strong corners, very talented safeties, guys who look like they could be legit pro prospects.
Yeah, they play man. They play man a lot.
They'll stick guys on an island and blitz a lot. It's been a hallmark of Dan Lanning's defense, for a long time. Just making your corners cover. That's what they're there for.
Yeah.
And making that and letting the front seven kind of play free and play downhill. We'll see. Hopefully ASU can maybe take advantage of that. Kenny Dillingham, he knows what's coming. He coached with Dan Lanning last year. He has a good idea of what to expect. So,
well, he knows with Oregon's receivers and how Bo throws to them. He knows the splits. In other words, how you break down your defensive man. Do you go to the inside shoulder, the outside shoulder? And you go inside, outside? I mean, what do you do? I think we should be able to. And I think we showed in the Washington game that we were really able to figure that out quite a bit because that's all they do. That Washington changes up their splits all the time, and we started doing a little bit more of that too. So I don't know. I think there's a wrinkle that we haven't seen, and don't be surprised if we keep this thing really close.
There should be another offensive wrinkle. I'm fully expecting ASU to break out something that nobody's seen in 30 years or more again. That nobody can game plan for because it's so outdated and hasn't been running.
Let me ask you: have we run
much like the game formula?
Have we run 13 personnel yet? One running back, three tight ends. So we run it.
That's our short yardage. Jumbo
that's correct. That's our jump because we chip the outside. We create the extra blockers. Yes.
Yeah, a lot of times Trenton will run out of that formation. He'll take like a step to his left or right and dive for the inside. We'll see. I'm sure we'll see some additional wrinkles, and that's why the head coach called for people to come out this week. You definitely show up. We're going to be there. We're going to be tailgating 3 hours before kickoff. We hope to see you there. And as always, like and subscribe and comment below to support our show. Keep us going here. So on that note, we say good night. Go Devils. There's a 2:00 kickoff. It is an early kickoff, so wear your sunscreen. But we say good night. Go Devils. Works up. Down the Duckies. It's duck season, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. Dilly dilly.